instructor for Literature 100, and today I'm going to be going over how you would create an outline structure for your Milestone project. So this is the Milestone 2 project due here in week 5, and this is just walking you through how to create that outline structure. There will be a part 2 to this where I will be actually filling out the worksheet and showing you how to do that. But for right now, we're just doing our pre-writing activities to create this outline structure that we need for this particular project. So to begin, I'm going to be looking at my thesis statement assignment from week 3. So I'll show you that. So this is from the example that was given on that worksheet, on the thesis statement worksheet. So that's what I'm going to be using to illustrate these points today. So the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the feedback that I had given you on week 3 thesis statement assignment. You want to make any corrections that were asked to be made so that you have a nice, clean, clear, good thesis statement that you're going to be working with, because that's really how we're going to be creating the structures. We're going to be looking at this thesis statement and revising the thesis statement for this structure. So so here's my thesis statement. It's the last sentence of my paragraph, and it's James Joyce reveals the theme of loss and innocence and despair, two common emotions in today's society, through his story Araby by using symbols. So that's what I'm going to be using to work with for this next section. So here is my previous thesis statement here. So it just says symbols. So that is where I'm going to have, I have that for my first paragraph. Since I'm using symbols, I'm just going to use two other elements to illustrate my point of the theme of loss and innocence and despair. So I'm going to choose tone and setting as my two other elements that I'm using to prove my thesis statement. That way I have this 3-paragraph structure, and this is the simplest, easiest way to do it. I could choose one element and then have 3 different themes that I'm arguing for. So maybe I want to use symbols and I want to argue for the theme of loss of innocence, despair, and infatuation, or something like that. But that's like a different structure. Again, we want to think in 3s here for your 3 paragraphs that you're going to be writing to support your thesis statement argument. But the simplest way, in my opinion, is to have 3 different elements, each element dedicated to each paragraph, and it's very clear and unique. Each paragraph is going to be unique, and they all relate back to this idea of loss of innocence and despair. So then I'm going to have my revised thesis statement. So here's my thesis statement for my outline. It's going to be James Joyce reveals the theme of loss and innocence and despair, two common emotions in today's society, which is exactly what's up here, through his story Araby by using symbols, tone, and setting. So here is where I've made that revision: symbols, tones, and setting. And now I'm ready to go. So here's my revised thesis statement. That's what I'm going to be working with as I move along in this document. So now I'm going to be elaborating on each one of these paragraphs. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. So here's my paragraph 1, symbols. So I'm going to look at finding 2 different points that relate to symbols. So as I look through the story, I'm brainstorming, I'm looking at ideas, and my first point is going to be the closing of the market. And then the second point of symbol that I'm going to use in my paper is the boy's infatuation with the sister of the friend. So that's what I'm going to be looking at as I'm creating my outline. So I have symbols, and now I've elaborated on those 2 points. So point 1 and point 2. And then I go on to my next one. So this next one, I have tone. What's my point 1? My point 1 is the tone, unfulfilled dreams and despair at the beginning of the story. So I'm going to save that. So that creates this tone of despair. And here I have another point where the tone of loss and innocence and despair at the bizarre scene. So I've got two different scenes that are showing this tone of unfulfilled dreams and despair and loss of innocence and despair. So again, I've elaborated on these 2 points. Paragraph 3 is my setting. So I have 2 different settings that I'm going to be looking at and relating back to my thesis. And the first one is the setting of the bazaar. And then the second one is more of a scene, also at the bazaar, the ending scene and the realization that happens at that ending scene. So there, I've made, so this is my brainstorming session, my pre-writing session that I've done for my outline. And so I've really created this strong structure of these 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1, I have 2 different points. Paragraph 2, I have 2 other points that relate. And paragraph 3, I have my point 1 and my point 2. So that's the structure of the outline. So after you have this basic structure worked out, now you can move on to the next part, which is filling out that outline. And I will be changing and going to a next video. So make sure you look at part 2 of this video series for how to actually fill out the outline part of this assignment. And thank you so much.